Welcome back to the fourth episode of 10 Games with Great Music. I'm Elrinth, the first boss. This time we're doing a Konami MSX Special. We've got my friend Mike to thank for bringing us the games. Mike's whole MSX library is basically only Konami games. I'd love to cover the whole Konami MSX library, but we'll stick with the 10 games I borrowed from Mike. As usual, I'll present the games in the order they were released. However, after that, I'll do a special segment. Many of these games actually inspired fans to create a special, fantastic game. If you already know which game I'm talking about, please post in the comments below. Before we take a listen to the various games in this episode has to offer, I'll quickly try to explain what the MSX is. MSX is a standardized home computer architecture announced by Microsoft and ASCII back in 1983. The computer was basically mostly popular in Japan. However, a few models targeted overseas markets. Software was released in various formats: 3.5-inch floppies, cartridges, and datasets. What MSX actually means seems to be somewhat unclear. The MSX creator, Kazuhiko Nishi, has 3 different claims according to Wikipedia. It was named after the MX missile. It stands for Machines with Software Exchangeability. It's derived from Microsoft Extended, referring to the built-in Microsoft Extended Basic, MSX Basic. The MSX was released in 4 generations. The first one, the MSX, released in 1983. And the second one, released in 1985. The MSX2 Plus, released in 1988. And the MSX Turbo R, released in 1990, which only was produced by Panasonic. Some fantastic games started out on these machines, like Bomberman, Eggerland, or Lolo, as we know it, Metal Gear, Parodius, Puyo Puyo. This is my Panasonic FS-A1 GT. I've modded mine by replacing the transformer inside to work with European standard outlets. It has 2 controller ports in the side, a floppy disk port, a Midi in and out, as well as an RGB out, and a couple of more ports which I don't really use, as well as 2 cartridge slots. One there in the top and one here in the back. In order to play the vast library of MSX software, I've purchased a Mega Flash ROM SCC+SD. It's a good flash cartridge, but it requires more knowledge to use than any other flash card I've ever been in contact with. It brings me back to the early days of GBA flash cartridges. Fans have made big enhancements to many MSX games. For example, there's SCC enhanced soundtracks, Joy to SNES compatibility, bug fixes, translations, color improvements, sprite flickering fixes, just to name a few. Oh, did you know there's support of Super Mario World for the MSX? Now that you have some basic understanding what the MSX is, let's get to the games. So first up is Penguin Adventure. Penguin Adventure was released in 1986 at a retail price of 4,980 yen. Penguin Adventure is a third-person auto-moving game where you dodge obstacles and catch fish, which you then later can use to buy upgrades such as weapons, which is crucial in the game's later bosses. Did you know that Hideo Kojima was an assistant designer on Penguin Adventure? The composers are Kenichi Matsubara, Yoshinori Sasaki, as well as Noriko Gushiken, as there's a password which refers to Noriko. Our first song in this episode is the 4th stage. Then we're going to listen to a patched PSG+SCC using MIDI Pack 2. Let's go! Next up, we have Akumajō Dracula, or as it was known in Europe, Vampire Killer, released in 1986 at a retail price of 5,800 yen. It was released a month after the Famicom Disk System game, which came out in September 26, 1986. The MSX version is very different from the Famicom version in that when you destroy walls, instead of getting the wall meat, you get a person selling stuff to you, very similar to Simon's Quest. The composers are Kinuyo Yamashita, aka James Bonanno, Satoe Terajima, and the track we're going to listen to is Wicked Child. First we'll listen to the original Famicom Disk System version, then we'll listen to the MSX version, then we'll listen to Jan van Valburg's SCC remake version, and then finally we'll listen to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate version in Nintendo Switch game. Next up, we have King Kong 2 Yomigairu Densetsu, released in 1986 at a retail price of 5,800 yen. This game is similar to The Legend of Zelda on the NES, however there are some differences. You gain experience by defeating enemies, and you don't actually walk into people's houses. They simply talk to you with dialogue boxes at their entrances. You'll see that the music reminds a lot of Metal Gear for the NES. That's because the composer Motaoki Furukawa also made music for that game. Let's listen to King Kong Yomigairu Densetsu Overworld theme. Here we go. There was also King Kong 2 Ikari no Megaton Punch on the Famicom in 1986. The composers credited for that game are Shinya Sakamoto, Satoe Terashima, Kinoyu Yamashita. Let's listen to the standard overworld theme for King Kong 2 on the Famicom. Here we go! Next up, we have Hinotori Houhouhen, released in 1987 at a retail price of 5,800 yen. Based on the manga series Phoenix, created by renowned Japanese manga artist Osamu Tezuka. Hinotori is very similar to Gunsmoke on the NES. When you run through the level, it starts over again just like Gunsmoke, where it would loop if you didn't have the wanted posters. However, you can go into other screens by exiting horizontally in Hinotori. I had a great fun playing it, but it's very hard. The composers are Motaoki Furukawa, Yoshinori Sasaki. The song we're listening to is the first stage theme. Let's go! Hinotori Houhen Gao no Boken was released in the same year on the Famicom, a very different side-scrolling action game. The Famicom game was composed by Kinoyo Yamashita, Hidenori Maezawa, Iku Mizutani. We're gonna listen to the third stage theme. Here we go. Next up, we have Nightmare 2, Maze of Gallius, released in 1987 at a retail price of 4,980 yen. There's not much to say about Maze of Gallius, other than it's a hard game and requires a lot of patience. A Famicom port was released just a few months after the MSX entry. After having played the Famicom port, I saw similarities to the Goonies 2 on the NES, a game which I loved as a kid. The composer for the MSX game is Kazuki Uehara, and the Famicom composers are Hidenori Maezawa, Shinya Sakamoto, Atsushi Fujio, Kiyuhiro Sada, Kinuyo Yamashita. We're gonna listen to the background music, and we'll start with the MSX music and follow up with the Famicom version. Here we go. Next up, we have The Treasure of Ushas, released in 1987 at a retail price of 5,800 yen. It's pronounced Ushas. You can select to play as one of two kids. One has a gun and jumps high, and the other one uses karates to kick ass. The game features 3 signs you can pick up on each stage, which does not only power up your kid, but also transposes the music, which is a neat idea. The composers are Iku Mizutani, Kinuyo Yamashita, Masahiro Ikariko, as well as Motaoki Furukawa. A song from the game was recently covered by a guy called Banjo Ollie. I'll put a link up in the description, but the song we're going to listen to is from a different stage. The 4th stage called Mohenjo Daro, Agra 1. Let's listen to it. Here we go. Next up, we have Gradius 2, or Nemesis 2, released in 1987 at a retail price of 5,800 yen. There's 2 different Gradius games. One is called Gopher, then there's this, which is really Nemesis 2. A port of the game ended up on the X68000 under the name Nemesis 90 Kai. The composers are Iku Mizutani, Kazuhiko Uehara, Motaoki Furukawa, Noriko Gushiken. The track I've selected is A Journey to the Start, Air Battle theme. We'll first listen to the MSX theme, and then we'll listen to the X68000 version. Here we go! Next up is Nightmare 3, Shalom. Released in 1987 at a retail price of 5,980 yen. This is the third game in the Nightmare series, and it's a top-down, read a lot of Japanese text adventure. I couldn't get very far and got bored quite fast. The composers are Iku Mizutani, Kinuyo Yamashita, Yoshinori Sasaki, Kazuhiko Uehara. We're gonna listen to the ending theme. Here we go. Next up is Salamander, which has my favorite cover art this episode. It was released in 1987 at a retail price of 6,800 yen. Originally released in the arcade but ported to many home computers as well as the Famicom. We in the West know Salamander as Life Force. However, there's actually some differences in Life Force from Salamander. Not only is the soundtrack somewhat different, but the levels have different content. When recording footage, I couldn't even reach the level I wanted you guys to listen to. The PC Engine version seems to be the best version. That is, until your ship explodes and you realize that instead of letting you continue from where you died, as in the other versions, you're being thrown back to a save point and losing all your power-ups. By far, NES Life Force is my favorite version. The fact it allows simultaneous 2 players always made me prefer Salamander over Gradius. The composers are Miki Higashino, Hidenori Maezawa, Shinya Sakamoto, Satoe Terashima, Atsushi Fuyo. We're going to listen to the song called Starfield on a couple of different machines. First off is the MSX SCC PSG version. Next up, we'll listen to the Famicom version. Then after that, we'll check out the X68000 version. And after that, we'll listen to the PC Engine version. And after that, we're gonna listen to the Sega Saturn version, which is pretty much the same as the arcade version. Then we'll listen to a track originally released on Midi Power, X68 Collection version 2.0, which was later incorporated in the PSP version of Salamander in a sound mode, sadly not in the game. Then finally, we're gonna listen to Android Salamander HT. The music is really badly looped, but the graphics are top-notch for the Android. Let's go! Next up is Kings Valley 2, the seal of El Gizeh, released in 1988 at a retail price of 5,800 yen. Kings Valley is a clever action puzzle game where you must collect orbs in order to unlock the door that exists on each stage. There's an evil mummy skeleton after you, so you can't take it easy. It's a fun, although a bit frustrating game. The sound team are Kazuki Uehara, Masahiro Ikariku, Yasuhiko Mano, Mataoki Furukawa, Kinujo Yamashita. From this game, you're getting 2 songs. The first is played whenever you walk to the next pyramid. The track was remixed for Castlevania Portrait of Ruin, so we're going to listen to that as well. After that, we're going to listen to the ending theme of Kings Valley 2. Me and my friends made a cover of that track as well, which I'll let you guys listen to. Okay, here we go. Usually, I'd end the episode here. However, we're gonna take a look at the special section. Here we go. Here we have Ashwine Story 2, Kuku no Gajo. Released in 1987 at a retail price of 6,800 yen, developed by T&E Soft. I instantly fell in love with the soundtrack after finding it by chance on YouTube. I recently purchased a copy, this one, from Yahoo Auctions. This is the second game in a trilogy of very different games, just like the Nightmare series. You play as a green lizard guy in a golden armor, stabbing bats and gargoyles into oblivion. It's very similar to Hinotori, but not auto-scrolling. You can even go backwards. However, your character is always facing upwards, while the enemies are facing downwards. So it can be a bit tricky to hit enemies at times. The composer is Daisuke Asakura. First, we're gonna listen to the original Stage 1 theme. Then, we're gonna listen to Mate's enhanced version, which is bundled in the fan translation released in 2012. Then, we're gonna listen to my own remix. Let's go! remember I asked you guys to guess the game that many of these games inspired. That's right, it's La Mulana. In the year 2005, La Mulana was released by GR3 Project. It's an amazing homage to the MSX. The game is like a mishmash of Konami games. It even shows a logo similar to Konami when starting the game. A remake of La Mulana was released for the Wii in 2012, and a sequel is available pretty much with all current consoles. There was quite recently announced a bundle of the first and second game coming to the PS4 in early 2020. Anyways, we're gonna talk music. La Mulana was composed by Horyu Samejima. The original soundtrack features a track which took a segment from Ashguine 2. This song was removed in the commercial release of La Mulana for obvious reasons. The song we're going to listen to is obviously Curse of the Iron Pipe. Here we go! Thanks for watching this episode. I had a blast playing the games, but it was a bit more tedious than usual to create this episode compared to the previous ones. So I couldn't release in the 2-week span I usually do. Please let me know what you all guys think of this episode. Was it too long? Did it contain too much info? Should I make a shorter video and release more frequently? Should I do something different? Please tell me in the comment section below. Thanks guys!